Okay, are we okay? Upcoming. That's good. Okay, hi everyone. So in today's lesson, which is a live streaming lesson on YouTube, we're going to talk about the data layer. So today's going to be about understanding the WooCommerce data layer and why it's really important. You have to know that the data layer is the cornerstone of our course, the cornerstone for you as a digital analyst. And to start with that, you have to know that, or you have to understand the followings. This is our store. This is the e-commerce store. Sorry. So this is the e-commerce online store. You have a data layer. So data layer is actually pushing data based on the user interaction and pushing the data as well to Google Tag Manager that will push it in its way to Google Analytics to view these numbers. So GA4 does not magically understand your store. So having a store and having Google Tag Manager does not mean that they will understand each other. WooCommerce holds the logic and the product data. In WooCommerce, if you have a WooCommerce store, you will know that okay, it holds the logic. So it holds that okay, this is the product, this is the price of the product, this is etc. etc. So these are like the inventory that you put. So it will understand that, but it doesn't understand that, okay, I need to push these data to analytics system. In our case, it's Google Analytics. Google Tag Manager reads only structured data. It reads data, but of course, when you have structured data, you will have a better understanding of your business. And without a proper data layer, tracking will become fragile. So it's really important to take the structure of your data super seriously. This is the foundation for you as a digital analyst. If you don't understand the data layer, you're missing really important piece in your journey as a digital analyst. So to visualize that, as you can see here, we have the store, online store, we have the data layer, and then we're passing these data layer information to Google Tag Manager, and then based on that, we're gonna hit it and send it to Google Analytics or to Meta Conversions Report or to Google Ads. So this is how it works. How the data flow? First of all, a user interact on your website. The WooCommerce will process the action. So, for example, you go to the website, and we're gonna see it very, very, very soon. You go to the website, you click on the on the product, and then the WooCommerce knows that okay, this is a product view. The data is pushed into the data layer. After that, GTM listens to that event. And when we configure GTM properly, when we tell the GTM that, okay, that event means add to cart, please push it to GA4. GA4 will receive this structured data. So the key message that you need to know that the data layer is the bridge between your store and your analytics tool. That's how important the data layer is. And after that, you need to know that the data layer is just a JavaScript. It's JavaScript object. You have the code there, so you can give the. Of course, when you talk about the data layer, you have to give the object a name. In our case, for example, add to cart, and you have to give it the parameters of that name. And we're gonna walk through our shop together and see these parameters. So you have the item's name, the price, the currency, all these kind of details that matters for that specific event. So once you have this data, then it will be pushed to the website, and it will be accessible as well. So to see this data, you can either view it on the console. So you go to your console, you inspect, and then you can see it, and you can see what kind of data are being pushed, or you can read it through Google Tag Manager. And we're gonna see both ways together very soon. Now, why structured data is important? Structured data is the differentiation between a smooth and a broken ways. If you have a structured data, then everything on your Google Analytics will be smooth. And again, professional tracking requires structured data. If you don't have structured data, then you will not have a professional tracking. And this is a very important communication that you need to communicate with your developers, because If you don't have well maintained structured data in the data layer, you're risking to have revenue issues. So revenue won't show correctly, or attribution will become unreliable. For example, we know that some channels like Meta, users use it more to discover the product, discover the ad. So people go into Meta, they see the product, and then they say, ah, okay, that makes sense, but I'm not gonna buy it now. And then they go to Google search, they type it, they go through Google search, and then they purchase it because they're ready on that stage. Without a structured data, you're risking to not get the ability of understanding how users behave based on that event based on their channel, because we all know that Google Analytics can give us this information. And of course, without the structured data, your conversion tracking will break and your reporting become more misleading. And that's a problem that many analysts face all the time, that their reports are not really reliable. One of the reasons are because of the unstructured data. There are some common data layer problems that you have to keep in mind, that having data layer itself does not mean that you're good. You have first of all to check once the transaction is done. Do you push a transaction ID? Because the transaction ID is the unique identifier that will identify that transaction. And if you have any kind of issues or bug, the transaction ID will be really good to track what was the issue for that specific order. Data layer as well has some problems of like duplicate purchase. Sometimes there are some conflicts of the script, so you might get duplicate not only purchase, so many events, and sometimes the currency mismatch. Sometimes if you have Google WordPress and you have the data layer and you add the new plugins, there will be a conflict with the data layer, and somehow the data layer will break. That's why with every rollout on your website, you have to have like a checklist, like, okay, did I check the main events that I have or not? And another thing is the data push too late. This is something that I face as well with my course. Sometimes you have the GTM there, but and the data layer is there as well, but at the same time GTM is being loaded after the data layer being pushed. In this case, Google Analytics will not read that this event happened. So all the time you need to ensure that, okay, the order of that event are in the same order that it should be. And sometimes the incorrect item array structure. Simply, let's say that you have like kind of like a weird structure, like you have a t-shirt add to cart, but the structure of that event is not well maintained. So it's missing the size, it's missing the price, or it's not being built as it's supposed to. So all the time, you have to debug before publishing, all the time before rolling up to a new website version from your development team. You need to go through your data layers and read and make sure that everything is well maintained. The professional best practice that I need to talk about before we jump into our shop and see how things are in real life, that you need to standardize the schema. If you are having e-commerce, you need to go to Google and then type for e-commerce events by GA4. This will give you like a clear idea about what's going on, and how can you name your events properly in a way that Google Analytics will read it. So you have to avoid the random parameter names. You can't just jump in and just put any name in your parameters. You have to stick to what Google is actually recommend you to have. And you need to validate every event in GTM preview. So even you have the data layer in place, and this is what we're going to show very shortly, you need to ensure that you have that validated in both GTM and in the console, and you have to confirm that in the GA4 debug view, and we can have a look at this as well. The last thing is the strategic alignments. You have to keep implementation aligned with your measurement plan. As we spoke in chapter number 1, there's no point of just tracking everything. You need to know what you need to track and why you're tracking it, and is that aligning with your business strategy or not. So what I wanted to say, that consistency is more important than complexity. So if you have something that's consistent, is much better than having a complex thing. And with that being said, I need to finish this theoretical part by uh, asking you to think like strategist. right? As a digital analyst, you have to think of your data layer as, okay, what's the revenue tracking that I will have? What are the product catalogs that the data layer is giving me? As a digital analyst, do I have the catalogs that will actually answers the stakeholders questions in the future? Does the data layer align with the business goals, especially when we talk about revenue or average order value, or? And does the data layer help me to understand the attribution model that being reported by Google Analytics in a better way? And does it as well help me to support the marketing campaigns and, of course, the marketing department in my team? Does the data layer answer their questions in a way that they can take actions that will make an impact? These are really important. And again, this is super important for a digital analyst to become from a junior digital analyst to a strategic digital analyst who can actually see the big pictures. So you're not only executing, you're actually contributing to the decision overall. And with that, we're going to go a little bit into our shop and we're going to have a look. So again, this is our shop. And you can see, for example, we have lots of things happening. And when we talk about the data layer, it's what's going on your website. So I'm a user and I'm interested in buying MetaQuest 3. I click here. So in my WooCommerce, it should record that, oh, there's a user who clicked here, right? So WooCommerce knows that, okay, there's something happening here. If someone add to cart, it will report on the dashboard of WooCommerce that someone add to cart. But this doesn't mean that Google Tag Manager see this unless you have the data layer built in place. So let's see, and let's click on the right click, and then let's click on inspect. And here you will have the sidebar for develop view. So it's called the developers view, and let's do it again. Yes, that's it. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger so it's like more user friendly. I'm gonna go here to the console, and then I'm gonna say, okay, how can you check the data layer? You need to put data, and then I think it will just complete the word. Sorry about that. There's some lagging here. So we go here and you type data layer, and then press enter. No, it should be data. Yep. So all capital letter, it's the camel casing. I'm sorry, we go back to the console, you put data layer, and then you can see that we have 9 events being pushed in the data layer. If I click on this arrow here, you will see that, okay, you have the set JavaScript, set developer, blah, blah, blah. So this is what we configured, if you remember, on our Google Tag Manager in the previous lesson. And here you can see that I have the first event. It's called the product view because I clicked on that product. So you can see that, okay, there's no brand, there's no category because I didn't put them in WooCommerce, but I have the currency, I have the discount prices, there's no discount prices. This is the event name, which is the product view, and this is the unique event ID from GTM, and here I have the product name, right? Now, if I go and add to cart, let's see what kind of information do I have. Here I will have the event name add to cart. I will have the product name. So you can see that every action happening on your website should reflect. It should it should reflect on an action. Okay, I'm sorry, I get here. So it should reflect an action, and this action should actually being pushed to the data layer. Once we have this into the data layer, we will be able to view it in Google Tag Manager. And I think that you remember in our last lesson, we had a look and we saw all the events being pushed in the event stream on the left side of GTM. I'm gonna show you this again, of course. So if we go now to this shopping cart, which is proceed to checkout, I should see the products. Okay, so this is a bug I have on my website, by the way, that I need to fix. You can see that the website is a little bit slow. I'm not sure if it's my laptop or the website itself, But now let's do it again. Oh, I think that we got the products in the carts. That's good. Oh yeah, we got it. So if I put here, because I proceed to checkout, we put data layer. Let me go with the camel case naming layer. Yep. I'm gonna click on enter, and we should see proceed to checkout. Okay, that's interesting. So we have here. Ah, yeah, because I viewed the cart. Yeah, sorry. Because here we clicked, so we viewed the cart. My bad. Now this is proceed to checkout. I'm gonna change this, by the way. It's some UX work that I need to do. And when I click on here, proceed to checkout, I should have a new data layer event that called proceed to checkout. And you will see again that here I will click data layer. Yep. So we should get, but you saw, there's something really interesting. You see that it was 5, then 6, and now it's 7. It means that I need to work a little bit on the order of my events. Of course, I have lots of messagings happening here because, to be honest, I need to make sure that everything is actually in place. Like these kind of like console logs that you have will give you an idea. But now let's go here and let's see what kind of events do we have. So yeah, begin checkout. So when we go to the begin checkout, you see that I have the event name here. Of course, I don't have much details because I didn't put, but of course, you need to put all the details in your JavaScript. And for that, there's a coding that you need to do. You as a digital analyst, you're not expected to do it, but yeah, it's good to know. So in that event, we should have all the information related to this one. So what was the price, what's been added, what's the brand, etc., etc. And when I click on OK, this is what I want, please cash on delivery, and then I click on proceed order, then I should have a new data layer event called purchase. So let's give it some time until everything loads. I need to clean up lots of stuff, by the way. But yes, so we go here and we put data layer, and then I press on tab. Oh, sorry, it should give me, yes. Okay, so now you can see that we have the purchase event. So and you have to know that we said in the common problems that sometimes we have two events happening, right? So one event is two events of the purchase, and this is exactly what happened here. And I think this is because the first purchase event is happening is on my side. I put the code to push the purchase event, and the second one is the WooCommerce built-in data layer event naming that being pushed. I can't really confirm that, but yeah, you can see that we have two purchase events, and this is where the analyst and the developer should debug and understand why do we have two purchase events. Now, if you track only one of them with a specific configuration, you will not have duplicates, but if you will track both of them, then it will be a problem. And here you can see all the information related about the event name. Let's go. So here you can see that the event name is purchase, right? You have the page type, you have information about the item. So we have only one item. So you have the item category, it's a VR, you have the item ID, you have the item name, you have the price, and you have the quantity. You have the shipping tax, you have the transaction ID. So you have all these details. The same thing applies when we go to Google Tag Manager. So the more actions we do, the more events that you will see on the left side of that of the event stream. And at the same time, I'm going to go to our Google Analytics, and then I'm going to go and then I say, let me debug. So what I need to do, I need to go here and I put debug view, debug view. Okay, so when I click here on the debug view, now it's really interesting, and this is how you debug. We set it again, so if you already know that, you can skip that part. But if you want to see it again, you can see here. So you can see that I have no devices, but now when I go and then I say, okay, this is what I want to debug, this website. So because my GTM is connected to Google Analytics, I should see the new device in my Google Analytics. So let's see, let's give it some time. Let's refresh. By the way, it's really interesting. I think because I'm live streaming on YouTube and I'm working on my GTM and I'm recording as well this lesson, I think my laptop is just getting lots of heat. That's why it's taking some time until it reloads the stuff. So I'm really sorry about that. It's good that you have the ability to like speed up the videos, so you don't have to waste much time viewing what the loading pages. But yeah, it's worth mentioning that. So let's go here. Okay, no devices. That's interesting. But okay. Okay, meanwhile, let's go to continue. So as you know, we want here. So we went here and we say preview, and then I open that page. That page gave me these kind of events on the left. Now, let's assume that I want to add to cart, or like I want to view this product. Then here on my event, it should show me like view item, I guess. This was the name, so let's give it some time. Meanwhile, let's see here. This is interesting. Still no device. That's pretty interesting. It should not be the case. Maybe it needs some time. Let's give it some time. But yeah, so now I viewed that product. What we need to see here, we need to see like a view item, product view. Yes. And I think that even the name should be view item, not product view. I need to double check this on the GA4 event, standard events naming. But yeah, let's say that I put here and then I put to cart. So I put add to cart. Then we should see in the event streaming. Oh, wow. Okay, so I clicked it multiple times. Of course, you see those events, form submit. These need to be cleaned out. So I would say this is more like a developer's job, but you as a digital analyst, you view that and then you say like, oh, there's something wrong here because we have multiple events being added. Right? So here you can see that we have the add to cart event. If I go to the data layer, you will see that, okay, the event name is add to cart, and these are the information that are there. So you will get an idea about what we're talking about. And if I go here and let's say I click on add to cart, we clicked on add to cart, right? So I think that we clicked on add to cart. Yep, we added to cart. Now let's go to the checkout, proceed to checkout or purchase. All these should actually happen. And I'm really surprised why I'm not seeing my device here. It should be here. It's really interesting because I want you to know the debug ability on the console, on the GTM, on GA4. It will give you like a great ability to read what's going on. Yep. But let's go. So let's proceed to the checkout. Hopefully nothing will break. That's insane, by the way. I don't see that. It's really interesting that I don't see my device here, even though that I'm previewing on GTM. Okay, so it says my cart is broken. Let's add one here really quickly. So we have it here. Now, if we go to the event stream, yeah, this was my this was my view card. As you can see that this is the view card. Of course, I put only the currency, but we can put more information. Here is add to cart. You can see all the information related to the add to cart. And let's assume that we want to proceed and to proceed to the checkout. So I'm going to click here, proceed to checkout. You know, it's super funny because my brain is still with the debug view, why I'm not showing my device. It's really interesting. Of course, I told you that to have it here, you need to type your shop. So you put shop. Let's try it out. So you put your domain, and then you put debug mode equals to true with a question mark, and then you should have the debug mode enabled. Of course, those who knows, tell me why I didn't see my device in the preview mode with GTM. Should not be the case, but yeah, just tell me. Now, if we refresh, I should be able to see my device in the debug mode, but let's forget about it for now. Now, I'm here in the checkout page, right? So I need to see in Google Tag Manager my begin checkout. Yes, that's it. So you can see that I have an event called begin checkout, right? And you can see all the variables that we defined before. Of course, we need to define more and more stuff, but as a DA, as a digital analyst, you should see that, okay, the event is there. That's great. Now let me proceed with the purchase, and then you can say, okay, you know what? It's cash on delivery. Place an order. Of course, if you go to this website, please don't make any order expecting you to get something. These are like all dummy products, so they're not real. Yeah, so now we are done. So this is the order details that I have with all the information. We should see that on the here. So again, that was one of the problems that we talked about, right? It was the purchase problem. You can see that we have two purchase events, and this should not be the case, right? So we need to know, why do we have two? We need to report that to developers so they can work on that, so we don't have duplicate events. Because imagine that I say, okay, I want to fire a purchase events on GA4 every time I see an event name called purchase. In this case, in every purchase, you get two purchases. So you need to be really, really careful with that. So you can see that the event is purchased. They're identical in both cases. So you need to be really worried. And that's why it's really important to debug and keep debugging. So yeah, that's what we have. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the debug view. We should see here a device. Let me refresh again and let me do some interaction here. Let's go to view product. Okay, so now I'm viewing this on the uh, debug mode view. This is super interesting. You know, it's more interesting when you are like live podcasting, and you know that when things goes wrong, you can't just edit the video and delete. You have to stick to what you have. So it's just like super interesting. Okay, that's interesting. I still don't see my my event. Anyways, that's it for today. For those who wants to stay and check what will I do, you're more than welcome to stay. Otherwise, you can jump in and go to the next lesson. Thank you so much for watching, and see you soon. Okay, now for me, I'm gonna try here to put the debug view. So question mark, debug mode.